This is Pre-Algebra, Chapter 9, Section 5, Distance and Midpoint Formulas. So this section is new. You haven't seen these formulas before, but you are given the formula, and all you have to do is substitute. So the distance formula measures the distance between 2 points on a coordinate plane. You don't need any other information except the 2 coordinates. So example 1, we are finding the distance on a coordinate plane between the points 2, 3 and 1, 5. We don't have a coordinate plane. We can't count anything. We don't need anything. We just need these 2 coordinates and we are good to go. So the formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So you are just going to write down this formula every time before you use it, and then you're going to plug in your information. So just like slope, we are going to label our coordinates. So I'm going to do point M, 2, 3. This is going to be x1 and y1. And then this one, point N, 1, 5, is going to be x2 and y2. This is why we always label our points. You have been trained to label your points. Now we are going to write the formula. Writing the formula helps you practice memorizing the formula. So the square root of the quantity x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Now we are going to plug in. Rewrite the radical so we don't forget to take the square root, and then we are going to plug in our values. So we are going to plug in x2. x2 is 1 minus x1. x1 is 2. Now we have y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is 3. We are going to start simplifying. So rewrite that radical sign. What is 1 minus 2? 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared plus 5 minus 3 squared. 5 minus 3 is 2 squared. Now we're going to simplify even further. Negative 1 squared is negative 1 times negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. 1 plus 2 times 2, 2 squared, which is 4. So the distance between point M and point N is radical 5. That is the distance. The distance between the 2 points is radical 5 units. And there you go. That is in simplest form. Now you try this out doing these 2 checkpoint problems. Make sure you label your points and rewrite the formula. Pause the video and come back when you're finished. Alright, here are your answers. For number 1, we plugged in x2, negative 3, minus x1, 2, and y2, 7, minus y1, which was negative 5. Minus a negative, that would become a positive. Then we simplified, squared the values, and took the square root. So you get a final answer of radical 169, and the square root of 169 is 13. Number 2, we plugged in our values for x2, x1, y2, y1. Remember, the same thing happened over here. When we subtracted a negative number, it became a positive because double negatives equal a positive. Then we simplify, we square those numbers, add them together, and then for this one, 40 was not a perfect square, but we can use our product property, and we were able to simplify to 2 radical 10. All right, moving on to the midpoint formula. So now, instead of finding the distance between 2 points, we are going to find the middle coordinate of those 2 points. So if we have a point here and a point here, we want to find the coordinate of the point directly in the middle. The point directly in the middle. So the midpoint formula is just that. It's another formula. So again, I'm going to write this over here. We have 2, 5, which is x1, y1, and then we have negative 6, negative 3, which will be x2, y2. In our midpoint formula, we actually have a song for this that was made up by my algebra class last year, and I'm going to sing it to you. It goes, midpoint, midpoint, what do? Add them together and divide by 2. So you can replay that as many times as you want to memorize it. So our midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2. And then our y-coordinate of the midpoint would be y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Now this is just one giant coordinate. So what we mean in this song by midpoint, midpoint, what do? Add them together and divide by 2. It means add the x values together, divide them by 2. Add the y values together and divide them by 2. So let's do that. Let's get our x values. We have x1, 2, plus x2, negative 6. And these will be divided by 2. Now for our y-coordinate, we are going to do our y values. So we have our y1, which is 5, and our y2, which is negative 3, and these are going to be divided by 2. Now remember, we are making a coordinate. So we have an x value and a y value. This is a coordinate. So we have to do now 2 plus negative 6. 2 plus negative 6 is negative 4 over 2. And our y-coordinate is 5 plus negative 3. So that is 2 over 2. Now we simplify again. We have negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. We have 2 divided by 2, which is 1. So the coordinate that represents our midpoint is negative 2, negative 1. That is the middle coordinate between the two coordinates that we were given. It fits right in the middle, exactly. Now there's 2 checkpoint problems. Do those and come back when you are finished. Midpoint, midpoint, what do? Add them together and divide by 2. For number 3, we added the x values together and divided them by 2 and got negative 1/2. And we added the y values together, divided them by 2, and got positive 1. So our midpoint coordinate is negative 1/2, 1. For number 4, we added our x coordinates together and divided by 2 and got 5. And then we added our y coordinates together, divided by 2, and got negative 1. So our midpoint coordinate is 5, negative 1. Now the last thing we are going to do today is something I know you all know and love. I told you it would be back again. It is slope. We are finding the slope of 2 coordinates. So we are using our x1 and our y1, and we are doing 3 different things with them today. We are finding the midpoint, we are finding the distance, and we are finding the slope. So let's find the slope of these 2 coordinates. First, you want to label them x1, y1, x2, and y2. Now I know you know what to do because our slope formula that we've been doing forever is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we are going to do y2, which is 2, minus y1, which is negative 1, over x2, negative 1, minus x1, which is 2. Now we are going to simplify. What is 2 minus negative 1? Well, that is the same as 2 plus 1, which is 3. And negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. So our final answer is negative 1. Our slope of these 2 points is negative 1. Now, here is a checkpoint. Practice doing some slope. Pause the video and come back when you're finished. Alright, here are the answers to your slope of the line checkpoint problems. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The answer to the first one came out to first 15 over negative 5, which simplified to negative 3. And then for number 6, we got 9 over negative 10, which actually can be rewritten as negative 9 over 10. And there you have it. Distance formula, midpoint formula, slope formula. You got them all.